This is the book of Isaiah, chapter 14, verse 3. And it shall come to pass in that day that Yahweh, by Hashem Yahweh Shai, shall give thee rest from thy sorrow, and from thy fear, and from the hard bondage wherein thou was made to serve. That thou shouldest take up this proverb against the king of Babylon, and say, How have the oppressors ceased? The golden city ceased. Yahweh hath broken the staff of the wicked, and the scepter of the rulers. He who smote the people in wrath with a continual stroke, he that ruled the nations in anger is persecuted, and none hindereth. The whole earth is at rest, and is quiet, they break forth into singing. Yea, the fir trees rejoice at thee, and the cedars of Lebanon, saying, Since thou art laid down, no feller is come up against us. Hell from beneath is moved for thee to meet thee at thy coming. It stirreth up the dead for thee, even all the chief ones of the earth. It have raised up from their thrones all the kings of the nations, and they shall speak and say unto thee, Art thou also become as weak as we? Art thou become like unto us? Thy pomp is brought down to the grave, and the nose of thy vials, the worm is spread under thee, and the worms cover thee. Shalom, shalom. Before I begin this lesson, all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Racha, HaKodash. Double honors to the apostles and elders and bishops of Great Millstone that rule well, and peace and blessing be multiplied on all you brethren teaching this word in all sincerity and in truth. Shalom to the hopeful elect, 144,000. I'm the brother Dama Agabar, here with another lesson, Lord willing to edify through the spirit and power of Yahweh while Yahweh Shai. All right. And in these few verses that I read in Isaiah the 14th chapter, it says a whole lot. You know, it ultimately is letting us know that the Lord is getting ready to deliver us from our captivity and from this, from our sorrows and from our fear and from this hard bondage that we have served here in Babylon the Great, which is America. And for us to take up this proverb against the king of Babylon, which is Donald J. Trump, that, you're getting ready to be, your reign of terror is getting ready to come to an end. And how the Lord is stirring up these nations ultimately to come up against you in this third world war, that you, by bombing Iran and allowing the least of the flock, those 1948ers, those small hats, to draw you out into this conflict with Iran is ultimately the beginning of your end. All right. And you are getting ready to be, have your staff and your scepter and your rulership broken via this third world war. All right. You've already set it in motion and there's no turning back. All right. And the scriptures tell you that the main point I wanted to get at now, that all the chief ones of the earth, now they're speaking to you and saying, Hast thou become as weak as we? Because for the longest of times, America's military has been, at the core of its hegemon. It's been at the core of its rulership and power over all of these nations and over all the earth. This is why America has military bases basically all over the planet Earth and all these other nations' backyards. And they're able to, rule, over the whole world via the blessing of Esau, Edom, which is the sword. And it's getting to the point now to where, now these nations are, able through beating their plowshares into pruning hooks, putting a lot of their GDP and money into, into weapons. They're making alliances with Russia, with China. You got the BRICS nations coming up, rising up into power. Now, a lot of these nations that didn't have the nuclear missile, now they have the nuclear missile. So now they're saying, hey, now we've evened the playing field. Now you become as weak as us. Because before, when America was at its height, it was able, through the fear of its military to basically, rule over all of these countries, get them to bow and to kiss the ring. And if they didn't want to play ball with America, they would send in the economic hitmen. They would send in their Air Force, bomb them, do all these different things, with their military that would keep these nations in check and in fear, to not, buck up against Babylon the Great. America to a certain extent, but now the playing field is being even. Now a lot of these nations that were weak, now through alliances, now through brokering deals with Russia, with China, now they're able to even the playing field. And now they're becoming stronger. Now they're able to tell America no. Now they're able to tell, now they're able to call particular, alliances together to basically back America up. And this is why I was reading this article. It made me think of that scripture. It says, Russia official warns multiple nations are ready to arm Iran with nukes after U.S. strikes. And one thing you notice about in America, countries that have nukes, America really don't fuck with. Now we know that Iran is, last on the list of those so-called Middle East countries that were on their list to take down and to go to war with. And Iran is the last one standing. But the reason why they're bombing Iran is allegedly because they don't want them to possess a nuke because of their uranium enrichment. But ultimately, information that's come out is really a lot deeper than that. There's a lot of, there's some natural resources that Iran has that America must have and it needs in order to make better weapons, better bunker busting bombs, and different materials that they possess to make, these nuclear weapons. This is why they're able to press the button. They're able to attack. They're able to do what they're doing. But now that, Salakia. But now that, you got all these different nations saying, look, hey, we'll arm Iran with these nukes after those U.S. strikes is putting fear in Babylon the Great. Now they're able to even the playing field. Now the weak can say that they are strong. And like I said, and this is the trap that America is going to end up setting itself into, is being burned and destroyed in this third nuclear war. And ultimately, it's all through the spirit of Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai, which I'm going to show you. But let's read some of this article showing you that now the weak are saying they are strong. Like I said, now we know on paper, America is still vastly one of the strongest military countries on the earth. But, Russia is rivaling them in different sectors. Russia has a more vast ICBM nuclear missiles than America. China is a formidable foe. But when these nations come together and through deals and through confederations and being in league with one another, hey, them all coming together is they're gonna deal that death blow to Babylon the Great via Russia being at the head of coming up against this whore. And now these nations are banding together to ultimately to come against America, come up against the king of Babylon, and the Lord is going to allow them to rage, in this third world war to break, to destroy Babylon the Great, man. Salakia. Salakia. So it says Russian Security Council Deputy Chairman Dmitry Medvedev declared Sunday that Iran's nuclear ambitions will not be deterred by U.S. airstrikes and that multiple nations stand ready to arm Tehran with nuclear warheads. You see? Now that we are able to say I'm strong. Now these nations, by coming together and aiding Tehran with nuclear warheads, are evening the playing field. They're going to make it harder for America to just come in there and just bum rush, Tehran and bombard them and just go in there and just totally just annihilate them. You see? And this is all prophetic in nature because scriptures tell you that mainly Russia was going to be a guard unto Iran, all right, against what Babylon the Great, America, is doing. But we know it's ultimately going to lead to this third world war. But this is, the way that Babylon the Great is going to be ultimately destroyed is in this third world war. It says his ominous warning followed President Trump's divisive Operation Midnight Hammer, which deployed over 125 aircraft, including B-2 stealth bombers, to strike Iran's Fordow, Natanz, and Isfahan nuclear facilities. The Kremlin swiftly condemned the operation as an illegal act of aggression, while Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth confirmed the Pentagon is coordinating with regional allies to brace for potential retaliation. You see, and like I said, the reason why America is doing that is because Iran is not a nuclear powered enemy. Now you notice America don't be, they talk shit. They might put sanctions on North Korea, but they ain't never just went in there and fully strike them like that, because they know that Kim Jong Un possesses nuclear missiles, and they know that crazy motherfucker is willing, that he'll cut him loose if he had to, if he felt threatened enough. You see, but since Iran doesn't have nukes really readily available on hand, this is why they can go in there and assault him the way that they do and attack them without the fear of retaliation, because they don't possess nuclear missiles. But now the Kremlin, Russia, and these other nations, Turkey, I forget the other ones. Now they're saying, look, we'll give Iran nuclear missiles. Now they said what? So that there can be peace, because ultimately they know how America gets down and how those small hats get down. They only attack those that they fear to be too weak to be able to retaliate, or those that don't have nuclear arms to where they could fire back with one of those. Well, now, hey, Iran is being offered nuclear warheads, man, which is totally going to shift things in the favor of Tehran, that is a non-nuclear country, to be nuclear, which now is going to make Babylon the Great back up, man. And like I said, it's all according to prophecy at the end of the day, man. And guess what? These nukes are going to be used eventually. It says Medvedev's brazen admission exposes the dangerous alliance forming against U.S. interests. Because what? Because Russia is a guard unto Iran. They have a lot of interest. China has interest over there in Tehran. A lot of those other Eastern, so-called Middle Eastern countries have deals and ties with Iran too, which America going in there and doing that to try to take control is going to fuck up their interests. So, of course, this is where, the heads are going to bump, and it's going to eventually lead to war. It says the enrichment of nuclear material, and now we can say it outright, the future production of a nuclear weapon will continue. He wrote on X, a number of countries are ready to directly supply Iran with their own nuclear warheads. Although he refused to name these nations, Russia's long-standing support for Iran's nuclear program, including the role in the failed 2015 JCPO deal, leaves little doubt Moscow's intentions. And why? Because it's prophetic. All right, this is Ezekiel 38:1. It says prophecy about Gog and the future invasion of Israel, you see? Because we know eventually Russia is going to be at the head of leading this, leading the charge against America and Israel with its allies against America and Israel in this Third World War. And it says, and the word of Yahweh came unto me, saying, Son of man, set thy face against Gog, the land of Magog, the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal, and prophesy against him. And say, thus saith the Lord power, behold, I am against thee, O Gog, the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal, and I will turn thee back and put hooks into thy jaws, and I will bring thee forth and all thine army, horses and horsemen, all of them clothed with all sorts of armor, even a great company with bucklers and shields, all of them handling swords. And here's the point: Persia, Ethiopia, and Libya with them. You see? And Persia is the Iranians. And if you Google, how does, what ties does does Russia have with Persia, Ethiopia, and Libya? They have a lot of, deals between one another. They're allied together, mainly against, the hell and the persecution that Ethiopia and Libya has caught from Western involvement. We saw what happened with Gaddafi. There's certain instances that happened in Ethiopia, and it was all done through the West, through America, So now they're all partnered up together, and they have alliances, through military deals, weaponry, and other things like that. So now they're all allied with one another. Russia supplies them with missile defense systems and weapons and other things of that nature. So, these three places are definitely, on the side of Russia and definitely against the West. It says Persia, which is the Iranians, Ethiopia and Libya with them, all of them with shield and helmet. Gomer and all his bands, the house of Togomar of the north quarters, and all his bands, and many people with thee. Right, because what else does Russia have? The BRICS, and they're building their They're building their alliances with a lot of those BRIC nations: Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, and you got other countries that are joining. Matter of fact, let me look that up real fast. Let me do it like this. What? Let me see. Name all countries allied with BRICS. Let me see. Who are BRICS allies? The BRICS is currently composed of 11 countries. It's 5 original members: Brazil, China, India, Russia, and South Africa, and 6 new members: Egypt, Ethiopia, Indonesia, Iran, Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates. And you got other nations that want to partner with BRICS. Look at this. On the last few days of the Russian BRICS presidency, Belarus, Bolivia, Kazakhstan, Cuba, Malaysia, Thailand, Uganda, Uzbekistan, and Nigeria were announced as partner countries of this group. You see, and you got others that want to join BRICS. Look at this. In 2023, BRICS decided to expand the membership by inviting Argentina, Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran, UAE, and Saudi Arabia to take part. With most of these joining, apart from Argentina and Saudi Arabia, BRICS is now a group of 9 official members. You see? Look at this. Who wants to be a part in 2025? I read these ones. Indonesia joined BRICS as a full member. Nigeria, Thailand, Uganda, Uzbekistan. Yeah, you see? You see that? So, these countries are all becoming, allied with Russia. You see? So it says, verse 6, Gomer and all his bands, the house of Togomar of the north quarters, and all his bands and many people with him, be thou prepared, and prepare for thyself, thou and all thy company that are assembled unto thee, and be thou a guard unto them. Talking about Russia is going to be a guard to Iran and these other countries as well. You see, all against what? Against the hegemon of the West. And the word is mashamar. It says a place of confinement, a guard, a jail, a guard post, a watch, observance, a guardhouse, a guard post, act of guarding. You see? See, look, diligence, guard, a office, a ward, a prison. You see? Look at this in the lexicon. It says custody of guard. You see? A station of watch. Hence use of the watchmen themselves, that which is guarded. See? And that's what Russia is to these different nations. That's why you see in this article that guy Medvedev is saying what he's saying, because this is part of Russia being a guard unto Iran. And plus, Russians know how pivotal Iran is as a, over there in that region. You see, where was I here? It says a Medvedev brazen admission exposes the dangerous alliances forming against U.S. interests, the enrichment of nuclear material, and now we can say it outright, the future. Oh, I read that. It says, although he refused to name these nations, Russia's longstanding support for Iran's nuclear program, including blah, blah, blah. And it says Trump's talking shit. President Trump wasted no time blasting Medvedev's reckless rhetoric. Did I hear former President Medvedev from Russia casually throwing the N-word, nuclear, and saying that he and other countries would supply nuclear warheads to Iran? Trump wrote on Truth Social, the N-word should not be treated so casually. I guess that's why it's Putin's the boss. You see, and this is, the pride of Babylon the Great, for Trump to come out and talk all this shit against Medvedev, because it shows you the hypocrisy of America, because whenever somebody threatens Israel, those small hats over there, America is the first one to come in and step in and have their back and tell them you better back down and, acting as the guard to Israel. But now that Russia is coming in that same stance on the side of Iran, what is Trump saying that he shouldn't be throwing that around so casually. But here it is. It show you the hypocrisy of fucking Esau and these damn devils. Those small hats, they have nuclear missiles that they got from America, and also they have their nuclear program is never allowed to be vetted or checked. You know, when that same, I forget what it's called, that IC, whatever it is, whenever those people will go into Iran to check their uranium enrichment, you know, Iran would abide by the rules. They would allow them to come in to check it and to see what they were producing. But when it comes to that same company going into Israel, they're not allowed to go in and to check on, you know, Israel's uranium enrichment and their nuclear programs. It's all silent. It's all secret. It's never can go in and be checked. But when it comes to Iran, you know, they got to play by all the rules. They got to let us see everything that's going on. Shows you the hypocrisy of these fucking devils, man. And this is why, hey, the Lord is setting these devils up real nice to be destroyed, man. This is why ultimately all the world is turning on Trump, on America, on those small hats. You know, they're all being exposed to being a bunch of liars and a bunch of devils, and that they're not the chosen people. You know, and there's a lot of shameful spewing upon Babylon and upon the Trump administration and those small hats, man. And ultimately, everybody is taking up a proverb, and everybody is getting, you know, everybody is turning against them. It says the N-word should not be treated so casually. I guess that's why Putin's the boss. Trump's sharp rebuke underscores the high stakes brinksmanship now unfolding with nuclear proliferation at the center of the crisis. Look at this. The president also touted the precision of U.S. military strikes, praising the submarines that launched 30 Tomahawk missiles, all of which hit the mark perfectly. Yet Medvedev dismissed the operation's impact, insisting Iran's nuclear infrastructure suffered only minor damage, and the claim contradicted by Pentagon reports of obliterated facilities. And that's what the West does, you know. And that's what these small hats do. Remember, they totally control the media. They control the mainstream media and all the narratives. So they're always going to make it seem as if Israel is doing more than what they're doing. And their strikes were so successful, and Iran is deteriorated, and they're obliterated, and they're weak, and they're begging. They're always going to give you a one-sided view of what's really going on. But when you really look at it, you know, what they did, it really didn't do as much damage as they show you on the television or that they present on mainstream news media, you know? And that's what these devils do, man. It says Moscow's response has been predictably hostile. The Russian foreign minister condemned the strikes as a flagrant violation of international law, while Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov hinted at deeper collaboration with Tehran, stating that the Iranian officials would soon meet with Vladimir Putin to discuss next steps. This follows Putin's recent offer to mediate between Iran and Israel in transparent ploy to position Russia as a power broker while undermining U.S. influence. See? So, and these things are going to continue to go back and forth, because ultimately it's all prophecy. And we know eventually, hey, the situation is going to get so out of hand that it's going to lead to war. Look what happened today. Trump is all pissed off because it was allegedly supposed to be a ceasefire, but Israel still went and dropped more bombs, you know, and Iran retaliated. So he think he's the big boss man, and he's big negotiator, and you know, he's bringing peace, but it's showing you that those small hats and BB Metankowski, they don't give a fuck about Trump's authority. You know, they said it's supposed to be a ceasefire that he established, and they still went and bombed on Iran, and Iran went and bombed back on them. This is why you see Trump cussing and talking about they don't know what the fuck they're doing, because ultimately what you're doing, man, you know, you're not in control of anything. All right. Hey, the Lord is in the controlling the minds of the kings of the earth. And the Lord is going to continue to have these two nations, and eventually America and Russia and all these other superpowers bump heads and go to war, man. You see? It says what? A nuclear nightmare in the making. And that's true. It says Medvedev's threat, which is effectively an open invitation for rogue states to arm Iran, should alarm every freedom-loving nation. If Tehran acquires nuclear warheads from Russia or other malign actors, the Middle East could face an existential crisis. The Biden administration's disastrous 2021 re-entry into the JCPOA, which funneled billions to Iran's terror-sponsored regime, paved the way for this showdown. Now, Trump's strikes has forced the world to confront the consequences of unchecked nuclear appeasement, while the International Atomic Energy Agency, that's who they are I was talking about, that we know when they went into Tehran to check out their atomic energy. They had to, they played ball. They allowed them in. But when this same company wants to go into Israel to check out their atomic energy shit, they're restricted. They're not allowed to see it. It's kept secret, showing you that these people are a bunch of damn hypocrites. It says, agency claims no radiation leaks have been detected. Vice President J.D. Vance admitted the full extent of the damage remains unclear. What is certain is that Iran's regime, fresh from slaughtering its own citizens during the 2022 uprising, cannot be trusted with nuclear capabilities. And the small hats can. Those Israelis can be trusted with having nuclear capabilities. Look at the genocide that they're doing on those Palestinians. And I was watching a video from Jake Morfonio from Blackstone Intelligence earlier, and he was going into the history of those small hats, man. How Bibi Netanyahu's father was the fucking head of a fucking terrorist organization, and he's the son of the terrorist organization. How they went into the land, Palestine, illegally. They were squatting on land, and they basically been stealing, raping, and pillaging, and stealing all of the lands from those Palestinians. They were doing terrorist attacks on the British, because the British basically, had stake to the land of Israel, and they were doing terrorist attacks on the British, so that then eventually through the Rothschilds and the Balfour Declaration, they were able to get into the land. They was trying to buy out all of those Arabs, from off of the land, and they wouldn't sell. So they started doing terrorist attacks on them and raging war and stealing more and more land, occupying more land. So they're just a bunch of bloodthirsty demons, man. All right. But then again, they can be trusted with having nuclear capabilities when from the day they set foot in that land, they've been, doing terrorist attacks. They've been lying, stealing, pillaging, doing all type of wickedness, man. And now they're trying to further expand it to that whole Greater Israel project, where they're trying to take control over that whole region from Israel all the way down to Egypt, man. And some of the land in Iraq and in Syria, they're just look up the Greater Israel project. That's what those devils are ultimately trying to establish for themselves, but through wicked and evil means, man. But then again, they're trusted to have nuclear capabilities when they're some of the most bloodthirsty, war-hungry demons on the earth. But anyways, it says the Ayatollahs have repeatedly vowed to annihilate Israel and destabilize the West, making Medvedev's promise of warheads a direct threat to global security. But like I said, see, but they don't want Iran to be able to defend themselves because they have plans to just take that land and, like Trump said, bring in a total regime change where they're going to bring in a puppet leader to do the bidding of the West and do whatever they're told by those small hats, man. But that ain't going to happen because it's all ultimately just going to lead to war, man. That's just the thing of it, all right? And this is Joel chapter 3, verse 9. It says, proclaim ye this among the Gentiles, prepare war. Wake up the mighty men, let all the men of war draw near, let them come up. Beat your plowshares into swords and your pruning hooks into spears. Let the weak say, I am strong. And that's what you see. You see, now the weak is saying they're strong. This is why you see Russia talk and other nations that are talking about arming Iran with nuclear missiles, man, to even the playing field, to stop to stop the West and those small hats from being able to just bomb rush Iran, and just do whatever they want to do in that region. Now, they're being met with resistance. Now, Russia is becoming that guard, and other nations that are aligned and confederate with Russia and China and against the West are coming to the aid of Iran to give them nuclear missiles to even the playing field, to somewhat bring peace to the region, which we know through prophecy is not going to bring any peace, but it's just setting the stage for this third world war and for these nukes to be shot and for Babylon the Great and the land of Israel to be obliterated and annihilated with nuclear fire, man, and to break the scepter of the rulers of the king of Babylon and Esau, Edom. It says, assemble yourselves and come, all ye heathen, and gather yourselves together round about. Thither cause thy mighty ones to come down, O Yahweh. Let the heathen be wakened and come up to the valley of Jehoshaphat. For there I will sit to judge all the heathen round about. All right. We tell you all the time, Jehoshaphat is Yahweh Shabbat, which means Yahweh's judgment. And this is why this situation is getting to where it's getting. This is why, this third world war is going to come to pass eventually. all for these nations and these heathens and their armies to be judged by Yahushua at his second coming. It says, put ye in the sickle, for the harvest is ripe. Come get ye down, for the press is full. The fats overflow, for their wickedness is great. Multitudes, multitudes in the valley of decision, for the day of Yahweh Bashem Yahushua is near upon the valley of decision. The sun and the moon shall be darkened, and the stars shall withdraw their shining. Meaning what? When these nuclear missiles eventually go off. All right, it says, and Yahweh also shall roar out of Zion and utter his voice from Jerusalem, and the heavens and the earth shall shake. But Yahweh Bashem Yahushua will be the hope of his people and the strength of Israel. And that's when we're going to be delivered and saved out of this captivity and out of this situation that we're in once this war is eventually fought. All right, and let me get this, and I'm going to close it out. This is Isaiah chapter 9, verse 6 and 5. It says, for every battle of the warrior is with confused noise and garments rolled in blood, but this shall be with burning and fuel of fire. All right, these nuclear missiles, man. You see, so everything is moving according to prophecy. So, hey, man, things are getting hot, things are getting heavy, and things are only going to get more intensified and more, lined up to where these things are going to come to pass. So with that, Lord willing, you were edified. All praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh Bashem Yahushua for putting the spirit in me to do this lesson. To the next one, shalom.